What is up, gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode on the channel. So glad to have you guys back on here. On today's episode, we'll be taking a deep dissective dive into the world of leadership. What does it mean to be a good leader, and effectively, how can you actually be an effective leader? Before we get in, who am I and why do I believe I have the right to speak on this? Well, first of all, I'm a work in progress, but my name is Shadi Adada. I own and manage a business in Beirut, Lebanon that helps brands from all over the world to design, develop, and produce clothing. So anyone with a vision to create their own clothing collection, well, that's what we can help them do. And over the last 7 years, I've grown from just myself freelancing in my college dorm to a team of over 20 employees, basically managing themselves and just building something from the ground up with zero investment and just trial, error, and a successful roster of clients and an overall successful and thriving business that continues to grow. Through the years, I've learned that humans and managing people in general is a very difficult task. It takes a tremendous amount of time, resilience, patience, empathy, understanding, and I'm still a work in progress. But there are key fundamentals that I've seen to effectively work in one way or another that I want to share on this episode. Why should you watch this episode? I believe that all of us, whether they're the CEOs of a large Fortune 500 company, or we lead a small community, whether it's a local sports team or whether it's a friend group, we all have the ability to lead and to motivate and to inspire others. It's our duty, it's our job, and these are the qualities that we can carry into all areas of our life. And I'll start off with understanding that it's important for any leader to not only identify as a leader. Most people have this weird sensation of calling themselves a leader. It feels very egotistical to say, I am the leader. But on the contrary, the world needs leaders. A world without leaders would be one without any sort of direction. It would be overly chaotic. We would not have the ability to have a centralized goal and to work together for to make that goal effective. So leaders are a fundamental part and take pride in being a leader. The second thing is understanding that in order to be a leader, you must lead by example. Leading by example shows others that you are willing to enforce through blood, sweat, and tears the things that you say that you are willing to enforce. A leader who is unable to do the things that he enforces on others is not a leader. This is someone who is calling out orders, who is walking out orders, and is unable to take the reins and to lead by example when necessary. I cannot explain to you how important it is as a leader to actually do the things and set and abide by the standards that you are setting for your team. I give you guys a very clear example. I'm very particular about our file formatting or how we name our files in the company. It's a very small detail, but it is a detail that allows us to have maximum flexibility, maximum organization of our files. And I enforce that. Especially in the times where I don't want to do it. I may find myself alone working on a file on a Saturday, on a Sunday, and I will always make sure to name the files as I've actually indicated to my team. It's such a small thing, but it's the small thing that turns into big things. And if I'm unable to enforce that specific leadership quality, or I'm unable to actually go ahead and do that task, then how can I willingly expect others to follow my lead? These are small examples that show that when push comes to shove, that I'll be right there alongside my team and I'm willing to get my hands dirty and I'm willing to do the things that I'm assigning to them. And this is extremely motivating because a team wants to understand and wants to know that not only am I being instructed, but I'm also a part of an organization that takes these instructions extremely seriously and they value these instructions. Because if the owner or the leader does not value instructions, then why should his team or her team value said instructions? It's as simple as that. Next up, we have effective communication. I've done a bunch of episodes on this channel on what it means to effectively communicate with others, and I've highlighted the importance of effective communication. But as a leader, you're going to be put in the firing line with a variety of your different employees, different team members, different practitioners that are operating with you. Being able to effectively communicate your requests and to follow up effectively and to extract information in the way that is strong, that is consistent, is going to be the make it or break it between being an effective and a strong leader and someone who is not built to be a leader. When you communicate, be concise, be clear, be very, very non-flowery with your language. Have enthusiasm. Provide a certain amount of panache and energy to the things that you're saying. Believe in what you're saying. Also, when communicating with your team and you have a project that you're setting out to do, at the end of a meeting, keep it short, but also take a moment to re-summarize. Summarize the key points of the meeting. Make sure that everyone is on the same page. Be patient. Take a moment to ask if anyone has any questions and actually answer if anyone does have these questions. Most people ask, do you have any questions, as a way of ending a meeting, as opposed to asking and trying to see if there's anything that they can help with. Next up, you must empower and inspire others. A leader that is unable to inspire his people to action is not a leader at all. You inspire and you empower as a way of allowing people to see the goodness in themselves and to see the strength in themselves. A strong leader is not someone who only displays strength in themselves, but is also able to motivate people to see where their true specialness lies. You empower others by giving them the space to make their own decisions. You empower others by letting them know that if mistakes are made, that things will be okay, that we will take constructive steps in order to correct these mistakes to avoid them from happening again. We inspire others by giving them the spark to light the flame in themselves, and we reinforce the things that are positive. When we inspire others, we are leading by example. We're showing them what could be, but we're also showing them what could be not only outside of them, but within themselves. Inspiring others comes down to understanding the person that you're speaking to. Different people have different motivations. Different people are inspired and are brought to action by different things. Someone could be purely motivated by the creative process of what they're creating, by aligning the goal and the vision of the company to that yearning for a creative process. You're able to inspire others to action and empower them to feel that the goals of the company fully align with their specific goals. And this is where understanding the person that you're speaking to comes into play. You cannot paint all of your team with one brush. You need to be able to empower specific people in ways that make sense specifically for them. And this takes a lot of emotional intelligence, patience, time, consistent communication to be able to uncover and unpeel the layers of the people that you're working with. Believe me when I say it's difficult, but it is well worth the effort. A highly motivated, a highly empowered, and a highly inspired team can 10x the productivity of the flip side or the latter. When empowering your team, it's important to take a moment to provide both constructive feedback and overall mentorship on their process. I find that constructive feedback is a necessary part of improving and allowing anyone to do their job. As a leader, I understand the values and I understand the targets, the quality targets that are set by my company. If I don't take a moment to evaluate the work that my team is creating for the company and try to, in my best and the most well-natured way, give them constructive feedback on how they can improve it technically, how they can improve it artistically, how they can be more efficient with their process. If I don't make the effort to take an interest in what they're working on and provide true feedback, concrete feedback that they can build off of, I am not a true leader. At the same time, it is important to mentor the people that you're working with. You need to be able to guide them. You need to be able to help them overcome challenges that they're facing both in their business life and perhaps even in their personal life that may be keeping them and holding them back from achieving their full potential. This is where patience, this is where empathy comes into play. By providing very subtle feedback and by showing them anecdotal evidence of how someone in their situation has overcome that challenge, you may inspire them to action. Each person will have a different approach that needs to be taken, and it's going to be up to you to know how to give that feedback, when to tone down that feedback, and when to just allow them to do their thing. Next up is emotional intelligence and empathy. If I was to summarize the video into one point, it would be this point. Emotional intelligence and empathy is the cornerstone of any effective leader's arsenal. You have to understand that there are no two people in this world that are truly alike. We are a sum of our ambitions, our goals, our fears, our upbringing, our experiences. There's so much complexion in the makeup of who we ultimately are and who we become. Empathy is the ability to step outside of yourself and to truly see things from someone else's perspective. Sure, we can never truly understand how someone feels about a specific situation, but we can make an effort, a concerted effort to see things from their perspective. When we can see things from their perspective, number one, we may be less brash about the decision that we're about to take or the comment that we're about to make. Two, we're also able to give them feedback and to communicate with them in a way that will better align with their communication style and their understanding style. We'll be able to get into their head and into their frame of reference and to be able to communicate things, to use the type of language, to use the right type of motivations that are best aligned with who this person identifies as and what they wish to become. Empathy is powerful. It is the ability to consistently ask team members how they feel about certain scenarios, how they're faring in a specific period of their lives. It's important to take that feedback and to use it effectively. Whether you're taking this feedback once every quarter or whether you're doing this weekly is up to you. But it is important to touch base with the team every now and then and to ask questions that are meant to dig deeper and to have them understand what are they happy about, what are they not happy about, what are their goals, where do they see themselves moving forward, and where do they find themselves being held back. Use this concrete data to make effective decisions on how to move your team forward and how to improve their overall quality of life when it comes to their time at your company. Next up, we have decision making and problem solving. Most people are indecisive. They're indecisive about things in all areas of their life. Decision making is a muscle that you're able to build up over time. Flex that muscle consistently and repeatedly. Most people don't take a decision because of the fear of the outcome that may happen. Sure, there may be a reward, but they are more motivated by the fear of that negative thing happening. And that fear consistently holds them back from taking key decisions in their life. The fewer decisions you end up taking, the less you shape your life. So if you were to look at life as a pottery and you have your clay on the mold and you're spinning the spindle and you're shaping this clay. With every decision you take, you give a little bit of pressure, you give a little bit of shaping, you start to form that clay into the finished vase. But when you don't take decisions, the spindle just keeps spinning around and around and around, and the clay just starts to harden, and it's nothing special, it's nothing of noteworthiness, and it just ends up looking like all of the rest in that specific scenario. Most people live very uninspired lives, very ordinary lives because of a lack of taking decisions. Decisions are not where your failures happen, they are where your failures are guaranteed. If you don't take a decision, you are guaranteed that failure. But if you take a decision, you may have that failure, but at least you've taken a decision. You've trained yourself that you are willing to take a decision when push comes to shove, and you're identifying as someone who is willing to overcome whatever negatives come out of that decision. Problem solving is equally as important. You need to be able to collaborate with your team. You need to be able to empower them to also join in on what problem needs to be solved, to show them that you're willing to listen to their suggestions and to come together to form a consensus over how to overcome that problem. Whether it's through a brainstorming session, whether it's through a one-on-one session, whether it's through delegating a specific task to a team member and allowing them to solve this problem on their own and to ask you and to provide you as a reference if they need any additional help, to let them know that you're there and you're able to help them if they need it. Problem solving is key, and joining your team in with their problem solving opportunities are even more important. Next up is vision and goal setting. A leader is someone with a vision. A leader is someone who can not only see out into the next day, into the next week, but has a long-term plan for where his or her team are headed. No one wants to be part of a ship that is going nowhere. Sure, it may be sailing, but it's burning fuel. You need to have a clear vision for where you're heading. What is the goals? What are the goals that we are trying to achieve as an organization? When you have these goals, be effective and be concise with how you communicate them to your team. Motivate them. Let them know that these goals are shared goals, that these goals are at where we want to achieve and where we want to get to together. Because if these goals are held up and they're made as clear as possible, as visible as possible, every action you take day in, day out is now attached to a goal, to somewhere that you're heading. If you don't know where you're heading, you don't know where to step. If you don't know what you're trying to achieve, you don't know what efforts or where your efforts are going to lay or where your efforts are going to take you. This is the importance of goal setting. Take the time, take the opportunity, make the choices, communicate them to your team. It's important here, especially if you're running a company, whether it's a small team or it's a large team, to have a mission statement. What is your mission statement? What is the goal of the company? I'll give you guys an example from our company, Fit Design. We say that in our company, our goal is to employ out-of-the-box thinking to help customers realize a vision to design, develop, and produce clothing that is meant to enhance their customers' lives and is meant to push their business forward. We have a very clear idea that we intend to employ innovative technologies to be able to service our clients, to create cutting-edge designs, and to optimize the way that we deliver and the way that we have our service operating. So We know what we're trying to achieve, and how we achieve it is always consistently changing over time. We're not a company that stays still. What brought us here today is not what's going to take us to the next step tomorrow. But at least we know at the core what our mission statement is. We can put all of our decisions under that one umbrella of a mission statement. Last but not least is going to be adaptability and resilience. As a leader, you must stand as a beacon of resilience, especially in tough times. A leader who gets riled up when a difficult decision is to be made, when challenging times come upon a company, when a downturn in the economy happens and things need to happen in order to move the business forward. A leader that only looks out for themselves first inspires no action, inspires no loyalty, inspires no resilience from the team that he or she manages. It is in these moments that a leader must lead by example and be willing to make the difficult choices, be willing to put others first in order to allow the business to continue to thrive, to succeed, and to last through difficult times. A leader who is unadaptable, who is so stuck in their own ways, and is unable to change with the demands of the current times, is a leader that will get left behind. And as he or she gets left behind, their business will get left behind and their team will get left behind. A leader who is stubborn and unable to adapt to new and innovative ways of doing business, new technologies, new operational mechanisms, is a leader who is not competitive, is a leader who inspires no forward thinkingness from their company. Because if you're someone who's unadaptable, who's so stuck in their own ways, how can you expect your team to take a risk, to suggest new ideas, to say, what if we did this like this? What if we tried this? Because they know that your lack of adaptability is going to lead to nothing. It's going to lead to no significant changes. It's going to lead to no forward movement in the company. And in 2, 5, 10 years, you're just going to be doing the same thing that you've been doing today. This is not a place that any team member wants to be a part of. Team wants consistency, but they also want change. They want improvement. They want forward motion and momentum. As a leader, you must ensure that momentum by always changing, by always updating, by always getting better, and most importantly, always evolving. Guys, that's been my key leadership traits. And of course, I'm speaking from a place of someone who is always trying to improve themselves. Sure, I come short and I fall short of some of these leadership qualities day in, day out. I know what they are, but putting them into practice is much easier said than done. It's going to be my life's work, and most likely than not, your life's work, to build up these qualities, to hone them, and to make them a true part of you. And we can never be truly consistent with these qualities. We either teeter or totter. So making sure that we don't give ourselves a hard time, but also that we are always pushing, we're always trying to become better for the betterment of our team and the organizations that we're trying to build. Well, that's the key goal. Be mindful of where your head's at. Be mindful that your team is there, that they support you, and that you should support them in kind, and that you should always be pushing them forward. Guys, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider smashing a massive thumbs up. It really does help us out. It keeps us motivated to keep creating this content for you. From the very bottom of my heart, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Shadi TV. Until next week's episode, stay awesome.